to be polite and keep your phones off and stay seated, help me enthusiastically welcome our first speaker, Bree.
I'm 5'1", so hi guys, I'm Bree, I'm an alcoholic. Okay, so I am currently 7.5 months sober. Thank you. Where do I start? For me, my experience started really, really young, the magical age of 13. I just was very isolated already, and I didn't really have a lot of friends. And it kind of led me very early on down a path I didn't even think was possible for me. I came from a very abusive home, and growing up as a very rebellious and angsty teenager, it just started spiraling into alcohol and other addictions. One of the things, if you guys have your blue books, there's a passage on page 204 in Women Suffer Too. When I entered a sanitarium for prolonged and intensive psychiatric treatment, I was convinced that I was having a serious mental breakdown. I wanted help and I tried to cooperate. As the treatment progressed, I began to get a picture of myself, of the temperament that had caused me so much trouble. For me, that passage struck a chord just because I didn't really know who I was without alcohol, and being the shot queen, that was my alcoholic nickname, I just did shot after shot after shot, and being 5'1", waking up the next day, that was not very fun. But it just started spiraling, and it was kind of like Alice in Wonderland, down an alcoholic rabbit hole, until I went through a very major breakup about a year ago. It was a breakup from a boyfriend, breakup from a friend group, breakup from my career, breakup from my relationship with my mother, and I, without even knowing Prescott was the hotspot recovery center of America, I just kind of drove up here and started a life up here, and I thought, me, an alcoholic, no way, I can handle myself. And that turns out not the case. So December of 2023, I found myself in a place of kind of half in AA and half out. And someone a good friend of mine told me, just to dive in, just to jump in, and I did not like that because I don't like jumping into anything unless it's, of course, alcohol. And I found myself having step 1 happen to me without really my consent or just really just happened, right? Slap in the face, knock down, drag out, all out breakdown. I relapsed, and this time it was a very deadly relapse because I ended up in the ER. I had meth in my system, I had Doxepin, and a bunch of alcohol. And they said that you were, if the paramedics did not get to you in time, you would have been dead. So of course, being the alcoholic that I was, the providers in the psychiatric center I ended up in told me that I had a few choices. I could stay and get the help I needed, or I could sit and sulk about it because they would not let me sign AMA. They told me what had occurred, and I looked the provider dead in the eye and I said, okay, so when am I getting out of here? Or can I sign AMA? Because this happens all the time. And this provider looked at me like I was absolutely insane, because I was. And I had a lovely 2-week vacation in the psych ward, and my dad and my brother had no idea what was going on, and my dad tracked me down in the psych ward. He filled out a missing persons report, went through, back end of HIPAA to just try and figure out if I was alive. So my dad came in to visit me, and I had the provider, the behavioral health tech, and my father all talking about me in front of me. Like I was not even there. And of course I'm throwing a tantrum. Like, I don't want to be here. I want to sign AMA and I want to go. Looking into my father's eyes and having to repeat the sentence, your friends and family would rather see you here than in a grave, and watching my father cry, that was step one for me. And then I really had to take into consideration my alcoholism and what it was doing, not just to me, but to the people around me. And so I get out of the hospital, and I walked up one night to my nail sponsor and asked if she would sponsor me. And I was not going to give up without a fight, because I did not want anyone else to be my sponsor. And we started with, a step 1 question, step 2 question, step 3 question. And then in the past 7.5 months of sobriety, it's been a lot of ups and downs. And what's been really beautiful about it is I got to go to school full time for my EMT class, and that was really, really awesome. I got to have actual friends and actual, people who are just more than friends. They came around me and they encouraged me. They saw me cry my eyes out whenever something came up. And it was really just, having that step 1 with my father, that was kind of like what started it all. And in doing the steps and working really, really hard to just, maintain sobriety this time and go to school and, live a life that I never thought was possible, was probably one of my favorite parts. And now I get to, look myself in the mirror and be okay with who I am, and, look at myself smiling and having my best friend take pictures of me, and having girls' night almost every night, and going to women's meetings. That was probably, in the past few months, that's what really changed the game for me, because I got to be surrounded by so many women, and they pointed me in this direction, and, let's go for a hike, let's go for breakfast. And then most recently, I got to help out with the roundup, and as you guys know, that was a really, really awesome weekend. So if you saw a little Tinkerbell running around, that was me. I, did not imagine myself getting past the age of 18, or even much less than that, 16, and here I am, 29 years old, 7.5 months sober, slowly but surely getting into my career and living a life of just, joy. And even in the pain, it really just sucks sometimes, but it's like, man, I get to feel this pain, and I really just want to go out in the woods and scream, and I get to do that now, instead of getting high or getting drunk and, going to bar to bar to bar to bar, and then, feeling like absolute just garbage the next day. I get to, seek new commitments, and, I'm already excited for next year's roundups. I already, have ideas for that, of what we can do. I'm just excited to be of service to other people and make people smile, and, sometimes use my EMT skills if they're sick, just I got you. I get to do all of these things, and I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't get sober, if I didn't have step 1 absolutely just knock me out. So for the newbies, congratulations, welcome to the family. My advice would get a Rockstar sponsor, and there's plenty of people here. And don't isolate yourselves, that's what's gonna kill you. Get with your friends and family here, because you will have people calling you up the wazoo just every day, all day, if you disappear. And I now have 1 million notifications on my phone if I even think about going missing. And that's the most beautiful part about this program. So I want to thank you guys for asking me to speak, and that's all I have tonight.
Up next, we have Kate. Welcome, Kate.
I am not 5'1". My name's Kate, and I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is 4/13 of 22. Welcome to the newcomers and happy birthday to everyone who picked up chips. It's really bright up here. Never gets old. So I'll just start out with a little bit of how it was and what happened and how it is now. I grew up on a little island in Alaska, a very different world from what it is here or what it is now in general. I had two wonderful parents and a very psychotic, abusive brother. I grew up thinking that I had a really great childhood until it was brought to my attention fairly recently that no, I did not. But from a really early age on, I developed this delusion. When I was a child, it was an imagination. I had this great imagination, and I created this imaginary world for myself, and I was okay. I just made up all these scenarios and things in my head. I lived in a fantasy world and everything was okay, and I always thought I was okay, and I was a very happy kid. I had a lot of friends, but I was never really close to anyone. I got along with everybody, but never really let anyone in. Self had assigned me roles from an early age. From having the brother that I did, who love him to death, he got all the angry and sad, and I got all the happy and okay. Like, he was very depressed and very angry, and he was just born that way, and I saw how he was and how he treated others, and I wanted to make sure that I was the exact opposite of him. So I felt like I always had to be happy, and I always had to make everybody else happy. I always had to be okay. Nobody ever told me that. Nobody ever told me that I always had to be happy, that emotions weren't okay, that I couldn't be sad. I developed that thought all on my own, that for people to love me, I had to be happy and nice, and I was the nice girl, and I was the tough girl. Because growing up with older brother, I had to be tough, but I had to be nice. I had to be girly, but couldn't be too girly. Self had assigned me all these roles, and they carried on into my life. As I grew older, they got more concrete, I thought it was who I was. I thought these characteristics or character defects were me. And, when I came into this program, I got separated from self. I realized that the voice inside my head that tells me to do the things I do, tells me to drink, tells me who to be friends with, tells me how to act, tells me what job to have, tells me who to date. I thought that voice was me, one voice, no choice. I just followed it aimlessly. And it led me deeper and deeper into my alcoholism. When I was 13, pretty young, I started, smoking cigarettes, smoking weed, drinking, and it progressed fairly quickly, but I surrounded myself with others like me. Everyone I hung out with drank like I drank. So it wasn't an issue. It was just normal, I thought, and I made that my friend group as I got older into middle school and high school. If you didn't drink like I drank, why would I hang out with you? Alcohol very quickly became my primary goal. Now, in the little town I grew up with, they drug tested for everything. I'm band. They drug tested for band. So, I used to dance. I played softball. Not kidding. I played volleyball. And as soon as I got into middle school, I stopped doing all that stuff because I wanted to drink and I wanted to party. And it was all these activities and my friends from childhood or party. And I chose to party. And party. I was a blackout drinker from day one, every time, but everybody drank like that. is what I thought. Everyone I knew drank like that. You drank till the alcohol was gone, then you went and got more. You drank till you passed out or blacked out. Passed out's always better. Usually I would just black out and not pass out. That's always a fun one. And I continued to drink like that. And I continued to change my life to fit my drinking. You know, I moved out of my parents' house a week after graduation, not because I was an adult and I was mature, but because I wanted to drink and party like I wanted to, and I didn't want to do it in front of them, or I, really couldn't living with them. So I moved in with 5 of my girlfriends and we partied all summer. And then I moved towns to Seattle, Washington, because everything I wanted was more easily accessible and cheaper. I rearranged my life constantly to suit my alcoholism. When I was, I constantly put myself in situations that were incredibly dangerous, and never saw anything wrong with it. I continued drinking so my mom got really sick when I was 20. She asked me to take care of her. I ended up being her caretaker for 5 years until she passed away. Most beautiful experience I could ever ask for. I wouldn't change it for the world, but I, was in the midst of my addiction through the entire thing. My poor mother had to witness things a mother should never have to witness, because I was with her 24/7 and I was an alcoholic and I didn't know any other way. After she passed away, I stopped caring. My whole life, I wore this mask. I hid who I was to everybody, and I was really, really good at it. I always thought I was okay because I could hold a job, I could take care of my mom, I could put on this show for the whole world. So they thought I was this upstanding citizen, and I pulled it off really well. I got good grades in school, I went to college, I did all that, so everyone would leave me alone and I could drink like I wanted to without any lashback. I looked like a school teacher. I don't have any tattoos or any piercings for that exact reason. It kept me out of trouble for a really long time until I couldn't hold the game anymore. I couldn't hold the mask anymore. And when my mom passed away, I died with her. I lost everything that day. She was my mom. She was my best friend. She was everything to me. And when she passed away, I didn't care anymore. I put down the mask, I put down the show, and it became very apparent to everyone very quickly that I had a massive problem. There was an intervention with my dad and the rest of my family. I hadn't spoken to my dad since my mom passed because I didn't want it to be real, and being a horrible, he pretty much lost his daughter that day too, along with his wife. And since I was selfish and I didn't want to feel the pain, I drowned myself in alcohol and ignored my father and reality, and until they intervened and sent me to Prescott. My brother moved here like 6 or 7 years prior to go to rehab, and when it became very apparent I had a problem, they sent me here. And I got tricked. They told me it was like a 1-month program. There was a pool, there was horses. I'd get my phone. I was like, yeah. Whew, no, I got sent to like a all-female boot camp for 6 months. But it was the best thing that ever happened to me. That's where I got introduced to AA. Treatment back in that day was really big on AA. They taught you etiquette. They taught you how to behave in a meeting, to get a sponsor, to go on coffee dates, to fellowship. That's how I got introduced to the program, and I got engulfed in the program. And it was huge for me. It didn't take. I wasn't ready. I did it because my dad cried. My dad cried, and I had only seen him cry 2 other times in my entire life, and I was like, I'll do whatever you want. I'll do whatever you want. Just stop crying. This is incredibly painful. And I stayed sober for 19 months that time. I had a little baby. He's 7 now. He's absolutely wonderful. And then I Mind you, I was a blackout drinker all through my teenage years, all through my 20s, almost died 1,000 times over, but I didn't have a problem. You know, I got sober for a while, got self-reliant, thought I had this on my own. You know, I was raised to be independent, handle everything on myself, not need any help, and my ego took over. And I thought I had this, and I could do it on my own. I didn't need you guys. I didn't need the program. I had a new baby and a fiance and a job, and everything was great. What did I need Alcoholics Anonymous for, right? That did not last long. As soon as I separated from the program, self got really loud. You know, it started quietly, and it was sneaky, and it told me that I was more patient when I was drunk. I was a harder worker when I was drunk. I was a better mom when I was drunk, and so I drank. And I didn't think I was an alcoholic. You know, bottom line, I didn't think I had a problem. I didn't think I was an alcoholic. I thought I could be normal. And that went really badly, really quickly. Every time, you know, I did the revolving door of recovery for 8 years. In and out of the program, in and out of treatment centers, spin dry, you know, and every time I thought I knew best. I never surrendered, and I never turned my will over, and I never actually listened because I couldn't hear, because I thought deep down that I was in control and that I knew best, and nobody could really tell me anything, so I could never really hear them. And that was until, you know, a little over 2 years ago, when I've been beaten down by my alcoholism. You know, I got beaten down by my alcoholism, where there was no happy left, there was no okay left, and there was no hope left. I, you know, had a spiritual death that was very necessary. And I surrendered. And I was finally willing to do whatever was suggested of me, to follow direction and to ask for help. That was a big one. I never thought I needed help. I never wanted to ask for help because I thought it made me look weak. And I was finally willing to do anything and everything that you guys told me to do. And what a blessing that was. Because now I am, you know, on the road to becoming the woman that God wants me to be. I figured out I didn't know shit. Sorry, Mike, that I didn't know anything, that I was not in control, that, you know, if I wanted to have a life worth living, I needed to follow the directions of others, and I've done that, and I continue to do that, and I have a wonderful sponsor, and I have friends now. I have real friends. Like, I have family. I have a wonderful life that's next to none that I would have never designed for myself. And I owe it all to the program. You know, this program is everything to me. It's taught me how to be a mom, how to be an employee, how to be a friend, how to be a girlfriend. And I owe that to you guys, so thank you. That'll pass.
Now welcome Dave.
Man, that microphone's tall. Good evening, everybody. Dave, alcoholic. Grateful to be here and grateful to be sober. Thanks, Chris. Thank you. And thanks, Mike B, for inviting me. And I have a good friend from Florida here with me to help support me. I'm just, like I said, I'm so grateful to be here at a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, speaking to people, especially people that are new. I was born and raised in Alaska. My sobriety date is 9/13/2005. It took a whole lot of years to get to that point. A lot of treatment centers, a mental hospital for a while, and detox centers, all those kinds of things that people hear about. And I started drinking when I was probably 13 years old, and the first two, I had two beers. I still remember the brand, Olympia Beer. And the two brands, they had the little dots on the back, on the labels in the back. I still remember those. But I drank both of those beers. And I was a little guy, like I still am. But I remember I had fears. I was afraid of everything and everybody. I was scared, just like I'm up here. I never have gotten rid of that fear of people in front of me. But what I found is those two beers did for me what I could not do for myself. It was an immediate feeling for me. I could not talk to girls. I couldn't do anything. Nothing. I was just so, just frozen all the time. So it was like the solution. And from that point on, about that age, I found that solution was perfect for me. And I used it a lot. And what happened is, and I'm going to try to make this the problem as short as possible so I can get into the solution, but every week I would drink sometimes something through the week, and it usually was on a weekend when I was around girls and other people and stuff. Well, what happened was it became so much of a solution to my problem that it became 3 or 4 times a week, and pretty soon it was every day. And in a hurry, it became so progressive that I went down the tube real fast. And it became a problem. I didn't think it was a problem. It was more like, I wish these troubles would go away, but I never could associate the fact that I was drinking and getting thrown in jail, getting in fights, doing all the stuff that we do, and, the old Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing. So I got worse fast, and even in the early 70s. Of course, I didn't realize it at the time. It was just something that all the other guys I knew did, and all the girls and stuff. And so that's what we did. We drank, and I got progressively worse and worse and worse. And when in 19, I'm going to bring into play my first AA meeting ever. And that was in 1983, May of 83. I was working down at the docks. I was a crane operator, heavy equipment operator. And and I was drinking heavily at this time. And I drank probably half a pint of R&R before I went to work. And I went to work, and we were staging this area. I had a dozer. I was making staging for containers that we unload at the docks there in Anchorage, Alaska. So, I had a guy, his name was Sid. I helped him get a job there. And so early when I was doing this work on this dozer, I figured, well, I ain't bothering anybody, so I might as well send Sid up to Government Hill and get a half pint of blackberry brandy for me. So I did that, and I did that throughout the day, And 4 o'clock rolls around, and I had these bottles I was sticking under the seat of this dozer. It was a D65P Komatsu, if you're familiar with machinery. And so I had all these bottles under there, and I remember taking the dozer, and we had to set it up over by the road so we could fuel it. And I got it over there, and if you're familiar with the dozer, you have a decelerator on it, and you let it off every time. Push it down when you shift into reverse, whatever, and you let it off. Well, the throttle was still on full throttle, and I parked that thing and passed out with the throttle wide open. And the blade I had set down and luckily took the power shift out of that. Put it in neutral. The next thing I knew, I passed out. My head was against the roll bar. I was getting this, waking me up. And Sid was getting me up. And he said, hey, what's going on, And the people that were right next to where I parked it called the ambulance, and there's people everywhere. So anyway, they got me off the dozer and I could hardly stand up. And the president of the company, Claude Bentz at Curly Dunsmore, the vice president, knew me and knew my dad. So they let me off pretty easy off all this stuff. And I ended up going to my first AA meeting the following day with a friend of my dad's. His name was Lefty Van Brunk. He's dead today. But he was my first sponsor, in a sense. But anyway, he took me to my first meeting. It was a young people's group in Anchorage, Alaska. And it was great. It was full of girls. A lot of nice looking girls there. And all I can tell you, and the reason why I'm bringing this up, is because I went to that meeting for one purpose. It had nothing to do with recovery. Nothing. And I stayed sober for 3 months in that process of, going to meetings and meeting girls. My brother was killed 3 months, August 6th of the same summer. And I started drinking again. And I proceeded to drink for 22 years and 4 months, from the first time I went to my first AA meeting, 5 treatment centers, mental hospital, like I said, a whole lot of self-imposed crises and things. And what it took for me, the last time I took a drink, I never forget. I was drinking vodka and I was wanting it I hadn't showed up to work for, I don't know, weeks. I wanted that drink to pass out one more time. I just wanted to pass out and it didn't do it. It wasn't working. And for us, when it stops working, that's a bad thing. I'm telling you. And it was for me. And I was so full of fear and I couldn't shut it off. I couldn't go pass out no matter how much I drank. And I was scared to death. And I thought I wanted to take my own life so bad because I didn't know what to do. The alcohol wasn't working. It was the only solution. I got on my knees, like what's been suggested before. And I remember doing it and getting on my knees and asking God, please remove this obsession, please. And I felt like I was looking through a straw. I've said this to others many times. And I could see a light at the end of it, but it was fading and it was going out. And I got on my knees and I begged from every cell in my body, I asked God to please remove this obsession. And I haven't had a drink since. What happened was not a bright light experience, but I had direction. All of a sudden I made a phone call to my sponsor that was he was always wondering where the hell I was at, why I wasn't being honest, all that kind of stuff. I got honest with him, told him the truth, called the hospital, said, I got to get detox, can I get in? Yeah, come on in, And it was a matter of direction that I never had before. It was like a path. And it was evident to me. And it was so, and I look back at it, and I get emotional because I know that was a God working in my life. Because, like it says in the ABCs, that God could and would if he were sought, and I was seeking, I can tell you. But what happened was I got with a bunch of friends, bikers, friends of mine, who are the kindest, biggest, hardest people you'll ever meet. They brought me into their fold. My sponsor that lives in Florida, of course I got my good sponsor here, of course, might be, but they took me in their fold and they brought me through that big book. I went to a book study every week, and I did that religiously. I went through the steps again. These are the things that are suggested. I did them wholeheartedly. Sometimes, a little resistance, but most of the time, wholeheartedly. My life has gotten better and better, more friends. I can tell you that, I'm in fear up here in front of people right now. I'm afraid. But when I stop and look at the truth, not the false things that are going up here and all that fear, I realize I'm looking at the best friends I've ever had in my life. That's what I know about Alcoholics Anonymous, is the fact, and for those that are new, when you hear people share about the hopelessness of this disease, step one, everybody has to do what they got to do to get here. But hopefully you don't need to go to the bottom as far as some do, And that's what we're hoping for people. You don't need to go through 5 treatment centers or 6 or 7, end up in a mental hospital, or dig that hole down until the dirt's coming on top of you, I have a tremendous gratitude for Alcoholics Anonymous, and I have a tremendous gratitude for my grand sponsor, my sponsors, including Mike here, I'm blessed to have as a sponsor. But I got to remember, this is a program of humility, and every good thing in my life comes from a relationship with God today. All of it, everything. And if I lose sight of that for a moment, I'm going to be turning to the left, and I'm going to be in trouble pretty soon, because it's happened to me before over and over. So I remember when I first got back, I was telling you about going to my buddy Dan's garage there. I worked on motorcycles with him for 5 years there. We become very good friends. But my grand sponsor, Ken S., he said, we were at the book study, and I was thinking, oh boy, I'm getting this book down. I'm reading pretty good. And one of the things he said to me when I was really thinking I had something going, he says, Dave, you're a great example for everybody in AA of what not to do. That's what, and I was going, what? So anyway, he told me that, and I learned a lot of things from him, that you could know the big book from one end to the other and die drunk, Application, attitude, these things that people share with us, especially friends that care about others and love us, love each other. And I've never experienced anything like this before. I actually think about other people, and if I might say something that might hurt them and stuff, I never did that before. But I don't want to do that today. And what a great thing that is to have the awareness of the presence of other people in our lives. I didn't do that on my own thinking didn't do that. I can attribute it to a relationship with God provided to me through working the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. I try the best I can to carry a message to people. I'm not very good at it. And I'm not very good in front of people. But I love Alcoholics Anonymous. I have a good life today. And I run every family member to hell and back, worrying about me, caring about me. I remember the fourth time I went through treatment, I was in Pasco, Washington, Our Lady of Lourdes, and my mom was there. They brought parents in there, and I hadn't experienced it before, where they sit at tables and have all the patients there, and the parents get to explain how we affected their lives. And I never forgot my mom. She came from Washington State up to Pasco to do this. And I never seen her so angry. And she told me that she had years worrying about getting a phone call about me. And that I would be dead. And my dad too, So you think about it, when I do all the things that I did, I never thought I was affecting anybody. But boy, I tell you, the damage and the pain and the hurt and suffering that people go through because they love you unconditionally, like my mom and dad, somebody else has mentioned. Good parents. I had great parents. Not everybody's blessed like that, but I was. And I hurt them a whole lot. So anyway, I could go on and on and on. I could, and most of it is the feeling when I look at my life and the friends I have today is I have an attitude of gratitude that is, I can't define it. I do suggest it. I get up, I pray every morning, I meditate, I call people, and I have 3 home groups here at Chino Valley. I got the Nooner Sooner, the Thursday Stag group, and the Sunday morning gratitude meeting at 8:33. I love them all, and I make coffee at that one. I think I better shut her down, don't I? Oh, stop. I think he's probably been pointing that at me for the past 5 minutes, maybe. But anyway, I thank you for allowing me to be a part of Alcoholics Anonymous, and congratulations to all the people that are celebrating time, and especially the newcomers. Glad you're here.